Humanity believes it fights to survive. The Imperium ensures it survives to fight. That is the bargain. That is the lie. And as long as war defines humanity's purpose, the Imperium will never lack soldiers, never lack graves, and never lack reason to exist. The drums continue. The orders come. The stars burn. War does not ask whether humanity deserves to endure. It only asks whether it is willing to keep killing to do so. And the Imperium already knows the answer, because it taught humanity that answer long ago. Until the last battlefield falls silent, and the lie finally has nothing left to feed upon. That silence has not come. It may never come. War ensures that. And humanity continues marching, believing this is salvation. Always. I have walked among the ruins of civilizations that remembered themselves too well, and among those that forgot everything but the shape of obedience. In the Imperium, memory is both a weapon and a prison. It is not merely the recollection of events, it is the narrative the rulers allow you to carry, shaped to instruct, control, and inspire. What humanity remembers is chosen. What it forgets is enforced. The Imperium knows that the past is neither a guide nor a comfort. It is the raw material of faith, war, and loyalty. Memory begins in silence. A child born in a hive world learns of ancestors who never existed, battles that never happened, and victories that were Pyrrhic. Statues rise of heroes whose deeds are legend, whose names are sung, whose failures are erased. They are immortal, because the living have no right to remember otherwise. Memory in the Imperium is curated, sanitized, and weaponized. The truth of what was cannot compete with the story of what should have been. History is the Imperium's first lie. It begins with the Emperor, the Savior, the immortal guide. Every chronicle asserts his wisdom, his vision, his divinity. Failures are reinterpreted as lessons. Betrayals become morality plays. Humanity is not allowed to see the cracks, the hesitation, the doubt that haunted those who ruled before them. Memory is not evidence. It is instruction. It tells the living how to behave, what to fear, what to worship. I have wandered libraries so vast they consumed entire continents, archives that hum with the weight of untold knowledge, yet the shelves are curated with invisible hands. For every text preserved, 10 more are burned, lost to time and flame. Records of dissent are excised. Letters of despair shredded. Rebellions are recast as tragedies, wars as triumphs, sacrifices as obligations. Humanity remembers only the stories that serve obedience. Forgetfulness is not accidental. It is deliberate. And yet, memory persists, despite the Imperium's attempts. The human mind is stubborn, a vessel that holds echoes even when the narrative demands silence. Survivors whisper tales in the dark, forbidden stories passed from parent to child like contraband. Dreams carry fragments of truth, flickers of history that should not be known. These memories are dangerous, for they remind humanity that the Imperium story is not complete, that it is a construct, a carefully assembled myth. The Mechanicum understands this. Their data crypts are vast, containing eons of human achievement, alien technology, and forbidden knowledge. Yet even they understand the danger of memory uncontrolled. Access is limited, censored, sanitized. Knowledge without guidance becomes chaos, and chaos, the Imperium knows, is the enemy. Memory is thus a chain, binding the past to the present, ensuring that humanity never learns too much about itself, or its potential. I have witnessed the memory of war twist over generations. A heroic battle against alien foes becomes a sacred narrative, even as the truth, a retreat, a massacre, a surrender, is buried. Children are taught to memorize names of martyrs they never knew, victories they cannot verify, and enemies they may never see. They grow up reciting history as prayer, honoring ghosts who may have been villains, and condemning rebels who may have been heroes. Memory molds morality, and morality enforces obedience. Yet memory can be treacherous. Those who remember too clearly become dangerous. Veterans, archivists, and scholars who perceive the gaps, the contradictions, the silences, are always watched. They are corrected, exiled, or eliminated. Memory must conform, or it threatens the Imperium's structure. Individual recollection is a threat because it cannot be contained. It travels, mutates, spreads. Collective amnesia is enforced. Humanity survives not because it remembers, but because it forgets what it must. The Imperium also manipulates memory through ritual. Festivals, ceremonies, processions, all are designed to imprint events on the mind, to remind humanity of loyalty, duty, and fear. Every hymn, every chant, every visual symbol reinforces the narrative. The mind becomes a record, and the record becomes law. Forget a chant, and the forgetter risks more than punishment. They risk being erased from the collective story. Memory is not passive, it is submission. And yet, there are moments when memory breaks free. In the quiet corners of the galaxy, a scholar uncovers forbidden texts. In the hushed corridors of an abandoned cathedral, a relic whispers truths long suppressed. These instances are fleeting, easily extinguished, yet they persist, tiny sparks of human curiosity and rebellion. Memory is not entirely conquered, because memory is human, and humanity is stubborn even when it kneels. Memory is also the Imperium's consolation. Worlds that endure famine, plague, and invasion are taught to remember their suffering as proof of virtue. Pain becomes sacred when it is remembered correctly. The dead are sanctified by narrative. Those who survive are bound to honor them with loyalty. Memory converts suffering into meaning. In this way, humanity's endurance is celebrated, while the cause of its suffering, the Imperium itself, is invisible. I have seen planets where the living and dead coexist in memory, where monuments to failures tower above thriving cities. Humanity venerates ghosts because the Imperium taught them to. People memorize loss not as warning, but as inspiration. They honor the dead with rituals that obscure reality, creating mythologies that erase mistakes, inefficiencies, and corruption. Memory becomes both homage and cage. The Imperium also destroys memory to enforce faith. Names of heretics are struck from records. Worlds that fall to rebellion are erased from archives. Those who deviate from the prescribed narrative vanish from memory. Humanity accepts these losses because faith tells them it is righteous. They do not perceive the pattern, only the necessity. The erasure itself becomes proof of the Imperium's vigilance. Even as humanity forgets, memory endures in hidden forms. Dreams, symbols, art, and instinct carry fragments of what once was. These fragments are dangerous because they cannot be fully censored. They inspire curiosity, dissent, and wonder. They remind humanity that the narrative is curated, that the Imperium's history is a tool, not a truth. Memory becomes a silent rebellion, subtle and persistent, capable of unraveling the grandest lies if allowed to flourish. I have stood upon battlefields so vast they bent the horizon. I have seen oceans boil beneath orbital fire, continents erased to deny enemies shelter. I have heard commanders speak of acceptable losses while standing atop mountains of the dead. In the Imperium, cruelty is not celebrated, but it is normalized. Efficiency replaces mercy. Survival replaces morality. War simplifies everything. There is no time for doubt when artillery drowns thought. No space for compassion when ammunition runs low. War strips humanity down to obedience and fear, and the Imperium thrives in that simplicity. A frightened population is manageable. A mobilized population is obedient. War becomes governance by other means. The greatest lie of war is that it protects humanity. In truth, it reshapes humanity into something that can endure endless killing. Children grow up among ruins and see it as natural. Veterans return broken, if they return at all, and are praised rather than healed. Trauma becomes tradition. Loss becomes legacy. I have seen entire cultures reduced to regimental variations, their histories condensed into banners and battle cries. The Imperium does not merely wage war, it consumes identity to fuel it. A world that fights long enough forgets how to do anything else. And yet, the enemies are real. Xeno's empires burn human worlds without hesitation. Demons tear souls apart for amusement. Traitors wear familiar faces and speak familiar words. The Imperium does not invent these threats. It amplifies them. It teaches humanity that annihilation is inevitable, unless war is eternal. Thus, war becomes sacred. The Adeptus Astartes are revered not because they save humanity, but because they embody the myth of righteous violence. Angels of death, clad in relic armor, descending from the heavens. They are proof that war can be beautiful if framed correctly. Their existence tells humanity that killing can be holy. I have watched space marines erase cities with surgical precision, then be worshipped for their restraint. Perspective is everything. Against infinite darkness, any brutality can be justified. War teaches humanity to accept this calculus without flinching. The Imperial Guard tells a different story. They are not angels, but countless. Ordinary humans, given a weapon and a uniform, expected to hold the line against nightmares. Their courage is real. Their sacrifice is real. And it is endlessly exploited. War consumes them faster than it can honor them. The Imperium tells them they are heroes. It does not tell them they are replaceable. War also preserves the Imperium's structure. Endless conflict justifies endless authority. Emergency becomes permanent. Laws harden. Freedoms vanish quietly beneath the sound of marching boots. A society at war does not ask who holds power. It only asks who can protect it. I have seen rebellions crushed not because they were dangerous, but because they threatened the narrative. Peaceful dissent is far more frightening than armed resistance. War keeps the Imperium's people focused outward, never inward. And still, humanity accepts this lie, because war gives clarity. In battle, life is simple. Survive the next minute. Obey the next order. Kill what stands before you. For many, this is easier than living with uncertainty. War offers purpose to those who have none, belonging to those who are forgotten, and meaning to deaths that would otherwise be meaningless. The Imperium does not fear war. It fears what would happen if the guns ever fell silent. For in that silence, humanity might hear itself thinking. And the greatest threat to the Imperium has never been its enemies. It has always been the possibility that the war might end. I have seen ceasefires treated as heresies, moments of calm regarded with suspicion. Generals trust the noise of battle more than the quiet of reflection. In peace, memories return. Names surface. Faces haunt dreams. War suppresses grief by overwhelming it. It keeps the Imperium moving forward so it never has to look back. The lie deepens with every campaign. Humanity is told that each sacrifice brings the end closer, that victory is cumulative, that one more planet held, one more enemy broken, will tip the scales. Yet the scales were never meant to balance. They were designed to keep swinging, to demand constant blood to justify their existence. Even the language of war is engineered. Casualties become statistics. Bombardments become purges. Genocide becomes compliance. Words are filed down until they no longer cut the conscience. When language fails to describe horror, horror becomes normal. I remember when war still shocked humanity. When massacres were mourned rather than recorded. When commanders carried guilt as well as rank. Those days are buried beneath layers of doctrine and medals. Now, remorse is inefficiency. Hesitation is treason. The Imperium claims war unites humanity. In truth, it fragments it endlessly, dividing people into enemies, allies, assets, and losses. Unity is a story told from the center, far from the front lines where reality fractures with every explosion. Yet I have also seen moments of astonishing humanity amid the carnage. Soldiers sharing rations in the dark. Medics standing their ground while hell rages around them. Acts of kindness so small they go unnoticed by history, yet vast enough to defy the lie that war consumes everything. These moments are the quiet rebellion of the soul. They do not change the system, but they remind me why the system must work so hard to erase them. War teaches humanity to accept endless dying as normal. Faith teaches them to accept it as holy. Together, they form the Imperium's most stable foundation. A population that believes its suffering is necessary will endure almost anything. I have watched war hollow out entire star systems until nothing remains but memorials orbiting dead worlds. The Imperium calls this vigilance. I call it attrition of the spirit. Still, the guns keep firing. The fleets keep burning the void. The banners keep rising over fresh graves. War has become the Imperium's language, and humanity has forgotten how to speak anything else. And so the lie persists. That war is the shield guarding humanity's future. In truth, war is the cage that keeps humanity exactly where the Imperium needs it to be. As long as the Imperium fights, it never has to explain why it rules the way it does. War absolves every failure. Lost worlds are blamed on the enemy. Starving populations are told to endure for the front. Knowledge is restricted for security. Truth is classified for morale. Every injustice hides behind the same excuse: there is a war on. I have watched leaders pray for invasions, not out of hatred, but out of necessity. An enemy justifies authority better than any law. A constant threat keeps the masses obedient and afraid of change. War is not merely fought, it is curated. The Imperium does not seek peace because peace would demand accountability. It would ask what all this suffering was for. It would demand answers that no throne could survive. And so humanity marches on, convinced that endless war is the price of existence, never realizing it has become the proof of the lie itself. I remain a witness to this truth, unseen and unheard, watching history repeat with mechanical precision. Battle after battle, crusade after crusade, each one declared essential, each one forgotten by the next generation. War erases its own lessons, ensuring it is always required again. I was there when the first lie was spoken, not as deception, but as mercy, and mercy is often the most dangerous form of truth. In the Imperium of Man, faith is not born, it is installed. It arrives not as a question, but as an answer already carved into stone. From the moment a child draws breath beneath polluted skies or cathedral vaults, the shape of belief is pressed upon the soul like a seal upon wax. The Emperor protects. The Emperor endures. The Emperor watches. These words are not taught as ideas, but as gravity, inescapable, unquestioned, omnipresent. Faith is the Imperium's greatest architecture, larger than hive spires, older than battleships, stronger than adamantium. It does not merely bind worlds together, it binds fear into purpose. In a galaxy where darkness is infinite and hostile, belief becomes shelter. The lie does not say that suffering will end. It says suffering has meaning, and humanity accepts it gladly. Once, long ago, faith was not required. Humanity believed in progress, in reason, in the certainty that knowledge would lift them beyond the need for gods. I watched those hopes burn in the fires of old night. I heard the screams of worlds isolated by the warp, of civilizations devoured by their own creations. When the stars went silent, faith returned, not as enlightenment, but as survival instinct. The Emperor understood this. He did not arrive as a god. He became one because humanity needed him to be. And so the first lie was born, that the Emperor is divine by nature, not by necessity. Faith in the Imperium is a weapon disguised as comfort. It is whispered by confessors, sung by choirs of the blind, etched into the bones of martyrs. It tells humanity that the universe is cruel, but just. That pain is proof of devotion. That ignorance is purity. It promises that obedience is salvation, and doubt is damnation. In this way, faith transforms terror into loyalty and despair into submission. I have watched pilgrims cross continents of ash to kneel before relics whose origins are forgotten. I have seen billions die with the Emperor's name on their lips, believing that their deaths mattered simply because they were witnessed by a God who never spoke. Faith does not ask whether the Emperor hears. It insists that he must, for without that certainty, the silence would be unbearable. The lie is not that the Emperor exists. He does. I have seen him bleed. The lie is that he desires worship. Once, he rejected it with fury. Gods, he said, were tools of control. Yet here stands the Imperium, built upon the very altar he despised. Faith did not grow despite his warnings. It grew because of his absence. A silent throne invites prayer. A broken God invites myth. The ecclesiarchy teaches that faith unites humanity. In truth, it standardizes it. Belief becomes currency. Orthodoxy becomes identity. To question the creed is not merely heresy, it is treason against the species. Faith replaces thought with ritual, replacing curiosity with repetition. Candles burn where questions once lived. Hymns drown out doubt. In this way, The Imperium ensures that humanity never again asks why it kneels. And yet, faith endures because it works. In the warp, belief has weight. Prayer becomes armor. Conviction shapes reality. When demons recoil from holy symbols, when faith shields minds from madness, the lie gains substance. Humanity sees proof, not understanding the cost. Faith feeds the warp as surely as fear, but it feeds it in a controlled shape. The Imperium does not extinguish chaos, it cages it with doctrine. I have seen soldiers charge horrors beyond comprehension, sustained only by belief that their deaths serve something eternal. I have seen entire worlds refuse surrender, choosing annihilation over apostasy. Faith gives courage where reason would collapse. It turns ordinary humans into unbreakable weapons. And weapons do not ask if they are lies. The tragedy is not that faith is false. It is that it is incomplete. The Emperor was never meant to be humanity's god. He was meant to be its guide beyond gods. But that future required patience, unity, and understanding, luxuries the galaxy devoured. When the webway burned and the dream died, faith became the bandage placed over a mortal wound. It stopped the bleeding, but the infection spread. Now, the Imperium worships survival itself, wearing the Emperor's face. Faith teaches that stagnation is stability, that decay is sacred tradition. Innovation becomes heresy. Progress becomes blasphemy. Humanity does not move forward because faith tells it that forward is dangerous, and backward is holy. The lie preserves life by slowly strangling its future. Still, I cannot condemn those who believe. When you are born into darkness that stretches beyond comprehension, when monsters claw at reality and the stars themselves betray you, faith is not foolish, it is human. The Imperium does not survive because its people are ignorant. It survives because they are afraid, and fear seeks meaning more desperately than truth. The Emperor's greatest lie is not that he is a god. It is that humanity needs nothing else. Faith teaches that the Imperium is eternal, that suffering is temporary, that salvation waits beyond death. It keeps humanity marching, generation after generation, into wars without end. It is the story that makes the unbearable livable. Without it, the Imperium would shatter under the weight of its own horror. And so the lie continues, spoken not by tyrants alone, but by mothers, priests, soldiers, and children. It is carved into every world, every soul. Not because it is forced, but because it is wanted. I have watched empires fall when their people learned the truth. The Imperium endures because it never allows that moment to arrive. Faith is the first chain humanity wrapped around itself, and the only one it dares not remove. I have seen war wear many masks, but in the Imperium it is no longer a means. It is a condition. War is the Imperium's heartbeat, measured not in years but in casualties. It does not begin with declarations, nor end with treaties. It is inherited like a birthmark, passed from one generation to the next, an unbroken chain of violence sanctified as duty. Humanity does not ask why it fights. It asks only where. Once, war was a tool wielded reluctantly, a failure of diplomacy and patience. In the Imperium, war is scripture. It is written into every prayer and engraved upon every weapon. To fight is to exist. To rest is to invite extinction. The galaxy does not sleep, and so neither can humanity. I have watched worlds learn this truth in fire. The Imperium teaches that war is necessary because the universe is hostile. This is not the lie. The lie is that war is winnable. That there will come a final battle, a last crusade, after which humanity may lay down its arms. The Imperium promises victory while feeding on perpetual conflict. Peace would be catastrophic. Peace would force questions no one is allowed to ask. Soldiers of the Imperium are raised on stories of glorious sacrifice. They are told that death in battle is the highest honor, that the Emperor counts every fallen life. And so they march willingly into annihilation, believing themselves chosen. War turns people into numbers, but faith turns numbers into meaning. I have observed memory shape destiny. Societies that remember oppression resist subtly, innovate quietly, adapt without notice. Memory can teach caution, empathy, and wisdom, if it is preserved in truth rather than myth. Yet the Imperium limits memory to control humanity, preventing it from learning too much from the past, ensuring it remains predictable, obedient, and dependent on authority. Memory is a lever, and humanity is the weight. In the end, memory in the Imperium is a paradox. It is both the foundation and the cage. Humanity needs it to make sense of existence, to survive in a galaxy of horrors, to endure endless war and ceaseless faith. Yet the Imperium ensures that memory is incomplete, selective, and sanitized, so that humanity cannot fully understand itself. It is both gift and chain, salvation and suppression. The Imperium's greatest lie is not that it conquers worlds, or that it fights endlessly, or that the Emperor is divine. The lie is that humanity's memory is its own. Every recollection has been filtered, every story framed, every lesson manipulated. Humanity does not remember freely, it remembers obediently. It remembers what it is allowed to remember, and in doing so, it accepts the Imperium's authority not only over its body and soul, but over its very past. I remain a witness to these histories, observing as they are retold and forgotten, seeing how memory shapes belief, loyalty, and action. I watch empires rise and fall, knowing that memory alone is insufficient to prevent repetition of the same tragedies. Humanity clings to its stories, even false ones, because they are the only anchor in a galaxy that devours certainty. And so memory endures, a silent, unyielding force, binding humanity to its past, shaping its present, and constraining its future. Humanity accepts this lie because the alternative, the knowledge of what truly was, is a void too vast to survive. Even as I witness the curation, the erasure, the sanctification, I know that memory is never fully conquered. It slips through cracks, persists in whispers, and waits for the moment it can reclaim the truths the Imperium buried. And when that day comes, the foundations of belief, of war, of obedience itself, may tremble. Until then, memory serves as both guide and jailer. Humanity believes it remembers itself, yet it only remembers what the Imperium allows. And in that delicate balance between truth and omission, the galaxy marches forward, haunted not by what was, but by what it is compelled to believe. I have watched civilizations ascend upon the scaffolds of their own ingenuity, and I have seen them fall beneath the weight of the machines they worshipped. In the Imperium, technology is not merely a tool. It is a doctrine, a religion, a testament to human triumph and human fragility alike. The glow of cogitators, the hum of servitors, the silent intelligence of the machine spirit, these are not conveniences. They are the veins through which the lifeblood of the Imperium flows, the instruments by which it binds humanity to itself. Technology is venerated, feared, and controlled with a zeal equal to any faith. The Mechanicum teaches that knowledge is sacred, that invention is devotion, and that every device carries a spirit requiring reverence. Machines are not inert. They are alive with purpose, their operational codes treated as scripture. The first ignition of a plasma torch, the calibration of a starship engine, the alignment of a void shield generator, each act is ritual. Every repair, every adjustment, is a prayer whispered to a god of steel and cog. And yet, the Imperium fears knowledge even as it worships it. Innovation is tightly bounded. Every blueprint, every discovery, every new understanding of the universe is scrutinized, filtered, and classified. The machine cult decrees what may be known and what must remain mystery. For the Imperium understands that unchecked curiosity is dangerous, that unbridled invention could unravel the carefully maintained order it has imposed upon the galaxy. The lie is not that technology is forbidden, it is that it can be mastered. I have traversed forge worlds where billions toil in perpetual creation, their hands guided by rituals older than many planets. The fires of their furnaces burn with a light meant to rival the stars, yet that brilliance illuminates only what the Mechanicum permits. Engines capable of interstellar propulsion are worshipped as relics, even when simpler designs would suffice. Weapons of unimaginable lethality are preserved in gold and oil, their secrets safeguarded from those who might wield them without blessing. Technology is power, yes, but power is only permissible when obedience is its conductor. I have observed the paradox of the Imperium. It fears the future even as it depends upon it. Machines advance, but only within the cage of dogma. Innovation is celebrated when it extends the Emperor's will, punished when it serves the mind instead of the hand. Humanity creates wonders, yet is forbidden to understand them fully. Cogitators process knowledge that the humans who built them cannot comprehend, The machine spirit is fed data that defies human cognition. And all the while, the Mechanicum assures the masses that the Emperor's guidance safeguards their work, that divine oversight prevents disaster. The greatest lie of technology is that it belongs to humanity. The Imperium claims ownership over every engine, every starship, every lost gun. In reality, humanity is the servant of the machines it venerates. Servitors march tirelessly, not because they are alive, but because they are bound by programs older than memory. Every weapon fired, every system repaired, every cog turned is an act of obedience disguised as creation. Humanity is not the master. It is the priest tending the altar of its own survival. And yet, there is wonder in this subjugation. I have witnessed void ships glide through the emptiness between stars, hulls shimmering with sacred inscriptions, their engines thrumming in harmony with the pulse of human ingenuity. Worlds flourish under the protection of technological marvels. Medici restore bodies thought beyond repair. Starfaring vessels deliver food, water, and hope across impossible distances. Technology preserves life even as it constrains thought. Humanity worships that preservation as miraculous, never questioning the invisible chains that bind it to obedience. Technology in the Imperium is also a mirror of fear. Every breakthrough is shadowed by the specter of corruption. The Tinker's Codex warns that even a simple misalignment can invite the attention of demons lurking in the warp, that a single error could release calamity upon a sector. These fears are real and deliberate. By instilling dread, the Imperium ensures that curiosity is cautious, experimentation restrained, and knowledge never exceeds authority. Humanity does not innovate freely. It innovates safely, always under surveillance, always within limits. I have seen great machines of war, relics from forgotten eras, awaken with purpose beyond human understanding. Titans stride across planets, their movements precise yet seemingly conscious, their weapons capable of obliterating millions in a heartbeat. Pilots and crews approach them with reverence and fear, speaking to the machines as one might address a deity. Each firing solution, each tactical maneuver, is framed as obedience, not mastery. The Imperium teaches that only faith can guide such power safely, that understanding without devotion is ruin. The Mechanicum ensures that the galaxy forgets how to reproduce its marvels without ritual. Knowledge is encoded in forms as complex as the devices themselves. A simple act of assembly requires prayer, chant, and ceremonial purity. Manuals are treated as scripture. Engineers are priests. Maintenance is worship. Humanity does not invent freely. It prays to repeat what has already been created. The Imperium's greatest lie is that it preserves knowledge for survival. In truth, it preserves ignorance to maintain control. Yet, there is poetry in this contradiction. Machines designed to annihilate can also nurture. Star engines illuminate worlds that would otherwise be dead. Environmental systems sustain ecosystems in vacuum-barren landscapes. Repair servitors tend to infants and elders alike, their cold efficiency blending with a subtle mercy. Humanity marvels at these wonders, rarely considering that the machines themselves might act without malice, without doctrine, without concern for obedience. They are marvels and instruments, angels and jailers. I have witnessed innovation flicker in the shadows, forbidden by law, nurtured by desperation. On isolated worlds, humans have repurposed archaic technology to survive plague, famine, or invasion. These acts of ingenuity are punished if discovered, yet they remind me that knowledge is never truly extinguished. Humanity can adapt, circumvent, and endure. Technology is both the Imperium's tool and its test. It proves obedience while tempting rebellion. In every cog, every servitor, every weapon, the Imperium embeds the duality of hope and control. Humanity's survival depends on technology, yet its survival is contingent on restraint. Machines amplify power, but also dependence. They grant life and dictate behavior. They are sacred, feared, and incomprehensible, and the Imperium ensures they remain so. The Imperium's greatest lie is that technology is neutral, that it exists to serve humanity. In truth, humanity serves technology, bound by ritual, superstition, and law. The machines endure beyond the lifespan of the men and women who maintain them. They remember what humans forget, obey what humans cannot command, and enforce what humans dare not defy. Obedience is the price for survival, and the Imperium ensures it is paid willingly. I have observed the slow corrosion of innovation, the ritualization of creation, and the sanctification of ignorance. Humanity does not ask how the engines work, only that they do. It does not inquire how weapons fire, only that they protect. It does not seek understanding, only permission. Technology becomes a cathedral, and humanity its humble congregation, kneeling before circuits and steel as priests once did before altars and icons. And yet, the flicker of true invention remains. Hidden engineers, rogue adepts, and isolated scholars push boundaries, risking heresy and death to glimpse beyond the veil of ritual. These sparks are fleeting, crushed if discovered, yet they are proof that technology is alive not merely in machinery, but in thought. Humanity's creativity cannot be entirely contained, even when it is forced to kneel. I remain a witness to this dance of power and obedience. Machines hum, engines ignite, and humanity follows the paths the Imperium has drawn. Knowledge is preserved, but it is always incomplete, always controlled. Power is granted, but always conditional. Progress is possible, but only within boundaries drawn by fear and faith. Technology sustains life, shapes civilization, and enforces submission, all at once. The Imperium promises salvation through technology. The truth is subtler, more insidious. Technology demands worship, obedience, and sacrifice. Humanity believes it masters the machines. In reality, it is bound to them, enmeshed in circuits and cog, forever dependent, forever controlled, forever deceived. And so the engines hum on. Starships glide through the void. Titans stride across worlds. Lasguns spark and arc servitors march. Cogitators calculate endlessly. Humanity endures, believing in mastery, worshipping power, and never perceiving the chains beneath their fingers. Technology is the Imperium's greatest gift, and its most perfect lie. I have watched the stars burn and fade, witnessed the birth of suns and the silence of dying worlds, and through it all, I have seen humanity reach ceaselessly for a future it does not command. In the Imperium, destiny is not discovered, it is decreed. It is a path drawn before birth, a chain invisible yet inescapable, guiding billions as though the galaxy itself had conspired to ensure they never wander. Humanity does not merely live, it is shepherded through time, bound by the promise of purpose and the weight of inevitability. The Imperium teaches that destiny is divine. Every life is a thread in a tapestry woven by the Emperor, every death a note in a symphony of providence. Children are born with their roles predetermined, or so the priests of fate declare. Soldiers, laborers, scholars, and rulers all follow scripts written before they drew breath. To question one's path is to question the Emperor, and to question the Emperor is to risk everything. Destiny is the carrot and the chain, the reward and the restriction. I have seen worlds abandon choice for certainty. Entire populations accept hunger, hardship, and servitude, comforted by the belief that their suffering serves a higher purpose. The Imperium teaches that to resist is folly, that to rebel is heresy, that to act outside the ordained plan invites chaos and death. Destiny, therefore, is not merely guidance, it is control. It molds hearts and minds more effectively than fear, more thoroughly than war. The lie is subtle. Humanity believes it is chosen, yet it is merely corralled. Prophecy saturates the Imperium. Ancient texts, whispered visions, and sacred chronicles all point to a future already written, a galaxy awaiting fulfillment. Planets are ruled with an eye toward these prophecies, campaigns fought in their shadow, lives guided by their dictates. Every declaration of fate reinforces obedience. Every interpretation of destiny justifies authority. Humanity does not follow out of certainty, it follows out of faith in inevitability. Yet destiny is mutable, or at least it seems so to the humans who cling to hope. A lone hero emerges on a forsaken world, a chance event shifts the outcome of a campaign, a discovery alters the understanding of what was thought immutable. The Imperium suppresses these anomalies, recasting them as miracles or accidents, ensuring that the illusion of predestination remains intact. True randomness, true choice, is too dangerous to allow. Destiny must be absolute, or the Imperium risks revealing its own fragility. I have walked through halls of power where men and women speak of destiny as both a burden and a privilege. Generals cite prophecy to justify slaughter. Governors invoke fate to enforce order. Priests declare that every soul has its place, every action its meaning. Humanity is taught to accept limitation as inevitability, to embrace structure as sacred, to see suffering not as misfortune but as purpose. In this way, destiny becomes both sword and shield, enforcing the Imperium's will while comforting the weary. The Emperor is the embodiment of destiny. He is the axis upon which humanity turns, the constant against which all uncertainty is measured. His words are law, his silence doctrine, his actions legend. The Imperium teaches that he alone can see the end of all things, that he alone knows the pattern into which every life fits. By venerating his omniscience, humanity surrenders its own. Free will is an illusion, destiny is absolute. And humanity accepts this willingly, for the alternative, the weight of total uncertainty, is unbearable. I have observed countless souls attempt to carve their own paths, only to be broken by circumstance, war, or decree. Rebels are crushed, innovators are silenced, dreamers are exiled. Even acts of heroism are interpreted as fulfillment of fate rather than defiance. Destiny is a cage disguised as purpose. It promises freedom in the abstract while ensuring obedience in reality. Humanity embraces it because the illusion of choice is stronger than the terror of knowing none exists. Even entire star systems are bound by destiny. Plans spanning centuries are drawn in the archives of the Adeptus Administratum, every conquest, every colonization, every purge carefully orchestrated to maintain the Imperium's narrative of inevitability. Leaders are guided, fleets directed, worlds manipulated. What humans perceive as luck, coincidence, or fortune is often merely the alignment of innumerable forces operating under the Imperium's unseen hand. Destiny is not just philosophy, it is governance. Yet the Imperium fears destiny's revelation. Should humanity understand that its path is manufactured, that its suffering, triumphs, and faith are instruments rather than choices, the structure of control would collapse. Belief in predestination ensures compliance, loyalty, and sacrifice. It transforms obedience into devotion. It persuades the masses that their lives are meaningful even when dictated by forces beyond comprehension. Destiny becomes both motivator and enforcer. I have seen the paradox of hope intertwined with subjugation. Humanity clings to the promise of destiny as if it were freedom itself, seeking reassurance in preordained purpose even as that purpose confines them. Generations are born into roles, trained to accept limitations, encouraged to see constraints as blessings. Yet, within this framework, they feel agency. They believe themselves architects of the future, unaware that they walk a path carefully laid before them. The Imperium does not forbid dreams, it dictates them. Even rebellion is framed as destiny. Heretics are told that their failure was foretold, that even their dissent serves the Emperor's greater plan. In this way, the Imperium absorbs defiance, converting it into proof of inevitability. Humanity's imagination becomes an instrument of compliance. The lie is complete. People feel as though they act freely, yet their freedom has always been anticipated and subsumed into the grand narrative. Destiny also binds memory, faith, and war together. It validates suffering, sanctifies struggle, and justifies obedience. Every death on a battlefield, every act of sacrifice, every moment of endurance is framed as fulfilling the grand design. Humanity believes it is advancing, progressing, shaping the future. In truth, it is moving along rails set by forces it cannot perceive, at speeds dictated by necessity, directed by a vision it cannot question. And yet, destiny is a fragile illusion. Small acts ripple across time, accidents alter trajectories, and whispers of rebellion threaten to unravel centuries of narrative. The Imperium labors tirelessly to maintain the impression of inevitability, correcting deviations, enforcing alignment, and erasing anomalies. Humanity is taught to trust the pattern, to revere the Emperor, and to believe in the sanctity of their path. They accept it, because to doubt destiny is to confront chaos itself. I have witnessed hope bend to authority, dreams folded into doctrine, ambition subsumed into servitude. Humanity's desire for meaning is both its strength and its weakness. It allows the Imperium to guide billions through centuries of war, famine, and plague, assuring them that their lives are significant even when their deaths are inevitable. Destiny becomes the glue of civilization, binding individuals to planets, worlds to sectors, and sectors to the Emperor's silent gaze. The Imperium's greatest lie is that humanity shapes its own future. The truth is subtler, more insidious. Humanity believes in destiny, yet destiny is a construct, meticulously curated and enforced to preserve order, obedience, and survival. Every life is a note in a symphony of control, every action a chord in a preordained composition. Humanity marches forward, believing it is free, even as its every step has been anticipated and accounted for. I remain a witness to this delicate illusion, watching as the Imperium orchestrates history in slow, inexorable rhythms. Destiny guides not only the living but the perception of what has come before, the interpretation of what is now, and the expectations of what must come. Humanity accepts the illusion willingly, comforted by the belief that its purpose is divine, yet unaware that it is manufactured. And so destiny marches on, a grand design imposed upon billions of lives, shaping thought, action, and belief. Humanity believes it chooses its path, yet it only follows the rails the Imperium has laid. In this careful orchestration, hope becomes obedience, faith becomes purpose, and the lie becomes absolute. Even in the void between stars, amid fires of war, and beneath the shadows of cathedral spires, humanity continues to reach for a future it cannot command. It dreams of glory, survival, and triumph, not knowing that every dream, every step, every breath has been anticipated, curated, and allowed. And in that eternal tension between freedom and fate, the Imperium endures. Humanity marches, believing in destiny, never perceiving the lie that binds it. I have stood in the void between stars, where no voice travels, and the emptiness itself speaks louder than any sermon. In the Imperium, silence is not absence. It is a presence, a force, a language older than the bones of the galaxy. It is the quiet after a world burns, the pause between orders, the spaces where questions dissolve. Silence teaches more than words ever could. It instructs obedience, magnifies fear, and enforces the Imperium's greatest truths without uttering a syllable. Silence is the canvas upon which the Imperium paints its grandeur. Vast cathedrals echo with empty corridors, vaults of stone and steel built not merely to awe, but to remind. A lone echo of a chant lingers in a nave longer than the voice that sang it. Halls of power resonate with the absence of dissent. In these silences, humanity learns its place. To speak without authorization is sacrilege. To question in quiet is to risk exposure. The Imperium does not always demand words. Sometimes, it requires nothing at all, for the quiet itself commands. I have seen entire planets hushed beneath the weight of expectation. Hive cities rise like mountains of steel, populated by billions whose voices are subsumed into machinery, ritual, and duty. Their daily lives are filled with noise, engines, alarms, prayers, orders. Yet beneath it all lies a silence deeper than any abyss. It is the silence of choice denied, of thoughts monitored, of questions unspoken. In that stillness, the Imperium shapes minds more effectively than any sermon or sword. Humanity obeys, because in silence it learns there is nowhere else to turn. The silence of death is the most absolute. On battlefields that stretch beyond sight, where artillery has hollowed mountains and firestorms have erased oceans, death speaks without words. The screams are brief, the cries swallowed by thunder and flame, and then there is only silence. That silence is sacred. It teaches those who survive that life is temporary, that obedience is eternal, that resistance is fleeting. The Imperium ensures that humanity honors the quiet, memorializes the absence, and kneels before the void that claims the dead. I have witnessed silence used as a tool. Inquisitors move through worlds like shadows, their presence unannounced yet all-encompassing. A glance, a whisper, a missing person, and the knowledge of danger spreads without explanation. Fear thrives in unspoken warnings, obedience blooms in the absence of command, and the Imperium gains control without lifting a hand. Silence is instruction, a teacher older than empires, and its lessons are absorbed more thoroughly than any doctrine spoken aloud. Even memory obeys silence. Histories are incomplete because gaps are maintained, archives sanitized, and truths withheld. The absence of information shapes thought as effectively as the information that is preserved. Humanity interprets these voids according to what it fears, hopes, or believes. The Imperium does not need to lie directly. It simply withholds, and the quiet becomes proof. In this way, silence enforces faith, shapes war, guides destiny, and sanctifies technology. It is omnipresent, invisible, yet absolute. I have seen silence as punishment. Worlds condemned to isolation fall into quiet despair, cut off from communications, supplies, and the company of allies. Entire populations learn to whisper, to watch, to exist without being noticed. The absence of oversight is also oversight, for the quiet forces introspection, obedience, and fear. Silence punishes more efficiently than fire, more completely than chains. Those who endure learn the cost of transgression, internalizing the Imperiums will without a single word spoken. But silence is not merely oppressive. It is also the Imperium's shield. In the depths of space, in the dark between stars, silence conceals secrets too dangerous for light. Ancient Xenos artifacts slumber, forbidden knowledge waits in hushed data crypts, and engines older than memory rest quietly beneath layers of vaults and oil. The Imperium thrives because it listens to silence, interprets it, and molds it to its advantage. Where others hear nothing, the Imperium perceives opportunity, threat, and necessity. Silence is both armor and instrument, protecting what is sacred and enforcing what is mandated. I have observed individuals who thrive within silence. Pilgrims meditate in abandoned temples, engineers commune with cogitators, assassins move unseen through catacombs of steel. In quiet contemplation, humans glimpse fragments of truth, question the shape of obedience, and sense the scope of the Imperium's design. Yet even these moments are fleeting, crushed beneath ritual, law, and duty. Silence grants insight, yet it demands surrender. The balance is delicate, and the Imperium ensures it is maintained. The greatest silence, however, is that imposed by inevitability. Humanity learns to speak only when permitted, to act only when commanded, to hope only in forms sanctioned by the Imperium. Questions are left unasked, doubts unspoken, curiosity subdued. The absence of voice becomes the presence of control. Through this silence, the Imperium ensures the perpetuation of its lies. That faith is devotion, that war is necessary, that memory is curated, that technology is mastery, and that destiny is divine. The quiet itself teaches obedience. I have seen entire fleets drift through space, engines humming with purpose, crews performing rituals of maintenance and readiness, all under the weight of silence. Orders are spoken sparingly, for the Imperium knows that words are unnecessary when fear, awe, and habit enforce compliance. Silence communicates authority more powerfully than 1,000 proclamations. It reminds humanity that survival requires attentiveness, vigilance, and submission. In the quiet, the Imperium asserts dominion not through power alone, but through absence. Even within cathedrals, where echoes of prayers linger long after voices fade, silence resonates with meaning. The hush between chants, the pause after a sermon, the stillness in a nave larger than memory itself, these moments impress themselves upon the soul. Humanity interprets the quiet as sacred, though it is meticulously orchestrated. It is in the pauses, the in-betweens, that obedience is reinforced, that devotion is cemented, and that the Imperium ensures its presence without ever needing to speak. I have walked among the empty corridors of lost worlds and observed the silence of history itself. Libraries lie in ruins, archives stripped of content, knowledge buried beneath layers of dust and ash. The Imperium does not merely erase, it silences. And in that silence, humanity interprets absence as inevitability. They remember only what is allowed, they act only as permitted, and they live in a quiet obedience deeper than any law. The Imperium's greatest lie is not spoken aloud. It is carried in the quiet, absorbed in the pauses, internalized in moments where no one commands attention. Humanity believes it chooses, it speaks, it acts, yet the silence that surrounds them shapes every thought, every movement, every breath. The absence of words becomes the presence of control. In silence, faith, war, memory, technology, and destiny converge, forming a single unbroken instrument of power. I have observed the galaxy through the hush of starlight, hearing truths whispered not by lips, but by absence. The Imperium endures because it understands the language of silence, because it wields it as skillfully as any sword or ritual. Humanity listens, adapts, and obeys, never realizing that the quiet itself is the greatest teacher, the most subtle enforcer, and the most enduring lie of all. And when the last star dies, and the last cry fades into the void, silence will remain. It will carry the memory of empires, the echo of wars, the ghost of devotion, and the unbroken rhythm of obedience. Humanity will still speak, still worship, still fight, but the Imperium's quiet will endure, a testament to control beyond words, beyond fear, beyond time. For in silence, the truth is revealed, not in what is said, but in what is never spoken. And thus the Imperium stands, eternal, unchallenged, and watched, not through proclamations or displays of power, but through the quiet that has always guided, restrained, and defined humanity itself.